Hey Dance Studio owners, and welcome to a new guest series inside the Transform by Dance Studio podcast. Over 6 value-packed weeks, you're invited to join us every Monday for our CEO Coffee Chat series, featuring guest hosts and Inner Circle members Heather Bulow and Patti Johnston. Join this dynamic duo for some real talk over coffee each week and share an inside look into their world as successful dance studio owners and DSOA studio growth captains. Heather and Patti will be sharing a deep insight into the important people in and around your business and sharing the innovative strategies that they have implemented over the years to be among industry's most inspiring leaders. Now, get ready to fill your notebook with ideas and share a whole lot of laughs as these business besties lay it all out on the coffee table for this week's episode of the CEO Coffee Chat podcast series.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Bulow, and I am here today. I don't know if you can guess who I'm with, but it's Patti Johnston. Hi, Patti.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. You know, this is kind of a little bit bittersweet that This is episode 6. How are we at 6 already?
I don't know. This went way too fast.
Yeah. I feel like we need to get our fans our fans to like and subscribe. Make sure we subscribe to this podcast. You can subscribe to the DSOA podcast. After us, there's going to be incredible humans coming to talk about different topics. And so keep listening and keep growing and let them know that you love us, and maybe we can come back again, because I sure love doing this.
Me too. But even without the podcast, I'll talk to you tomorrow, like I know we will.
That is very true. That is true. We're each other's help me when I'm down person.
Yeah.
Okay. So if this is your first podcast with us, where have you been, first off?
And go back and listen to the other ones.
Go back and listen. This is number 6. And this series, we kind of wanted to do something fun about who comes through our front doors of our studio, and thinking about all of the different people who we touch and we interact with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So we've kind of done all of the core ones that you can normally think of, but today is bringing your community through your doors.
Mm-hmm.
Getting those people that aren't dance mom and dads or dancers and will never be, most likely will never be.
Right.
Getting those people through your doors and how that can benefit you.
Mm-hmm. And your students and the opportunities that you're able to offer down the road, because sometimes the connections you make today might not show up for a year or two.
Yes, very much so. And I think this is definitely not a way of thinking of, kind of the normal studio owner. This isn't something, because you have to give a lot for this to kick back. Yeah. At the beginning, you have to say yes to a lot of things where you're like, oh man, but then down the road, so many doors open because you had that yes mentality, and that more members in the community seen you doing these things. You've caught their attention, and they'll come to you for bigger things that will in turn kind of pay off down the road.
Yeah. And I remember you saying once, when people see purple in your community and they're thinking about dance, you want them to be dancer's edge. And I was like, that's a brilliant way to look at it and have the mindset of, you might not dance, you might be a hockey mom or whatever, but if you're thinking of dance and having coffee with a friend who has somebody they want to put in dance, they could still recommend your studio, even though they've never stepped foot in it because of what they've seen or heard about you in your community. Yeah. And I do think this is particularly true for the smaller studios, right?
Yeah, and small town too, right?
Small town, smaller studios. This is where you can really stand out and shine.
Yep.
So, and become that go-to studio.
Yeah, when anyone thinks dance studio, you're exactly right. I want them to think purple, and then I want them to think Dancer's Edge. Even though there's 3 other studios that are great in my town, I want to be the one that's on everyone's tongue, and for good reasons. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's help you be the go-to studio. That's a Clint line if I've ever heard one, is becoming the go-to studio in your community. So let's talk about some community events, not in the studio, but outside your studio that you are taking your students to. So first off, you open them up to everyone, whether they're recreational students, competitive students, dance 1 hour a week, dance 10-hour weeks. This is going to build camaraderie between your studio, between your dancers. And it teaches them a lot too of doing community involvement. So when you're asked to do, say, a parade, most towns or cities have a parade, and parades are really good exposure. People always say, oh, it's free advertising. For me, it's not really free. I give out candy and I staple a QR code with my upcoming classes to it. So I'm using it as an advertising opportunity, but in the same breath, my kids are getting to perform and all of that. So parades are great. Grand openings. Lots of times, people that are having like a big grand opening, they'll ask if I can bring an aerial act or if we can dance. Sporting events. Have you done any sporting events?
Yeah, we've done like the hockey flash mobs. I know you recently danced at an Oil Kings game too.
Yeah, we did a WHL.
Right? Like that's
that was really
amazing
fun
here in Canada. We've also done things where we're bringing schools into the studio. So we offer free field trips for preschools and kindergartens and elementary schools to come try dance, or we go into the school if that's easier and send an instructor to. Most schools have a dance component in their phys ed or,
And the gym teachers usually do not want to teach it.
No,
it's not their favorite.
Nor should
section. Nor should they. So yeah, we do that too. We have 3 schools that we go to, and it's usually like a week out of each. And I pay an instructor to go because they are working, and I treat it as advertising. Yeah. And when I do this with the school, I don't charge them for it. They usually do give us like a gift. But I will say at the end of it, do you mind if I hand out a flyer? Exactly. And I would say 99% of the time they're going to say yes. And you just hit your ideal market.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We've also done in Canada, there's Telemiracle. We've danced at that for a couple of years where we auditioned and then did fundraising for basically a children's health foundation for those that don't know what Telemiracle is. But it gives our kids exposure. They get to work with TV crews. So it's a different opportunity than something that they normally have. We're currently this week, we've been invited to perform in a music video. So I've got to get some tap stuff planned on what we're going to do there. But that all stemmed from my work with a production company on something totally unrelated. And because we got along so good, he was like, well, of course I phoned you first. You're so fun to work with. So I think it's also just being mindful of, I think somebody in the inner circle said this recently. I think it might have been Murphy. But it's like, it's not if you can get hired. Can you get rehired? So don't forget when you're out and about in the community, sometimes they're the most infuriating or frustrating places to work because they don't understand our needs and what we need to do to perform or do things well. But make it a teachable moment and just keep in mind this can lead to other things if you're easy and fun to work with too.
That is so right. I wanted to tell about this one was a while ago. I'd say it was at least 7 years ago. And it's going to really show that I'm Canadian because the sport was curling. And it was like some sort of like Scotty's Tournaments of Hearts. I don't know. It was a big one. Yeah. So people were coming from like all over, and our town hosted like a subset of it. And they wanted to have like a grand an opening ceremony. And so they reached out and they had asked me about it. And then I had said, well, there's 2 other dance studios in town. Can we work together? And so we approached them all and we did this big number with this kids from all different studios within our town. Nice. So that showed them, our students, like camaraderie, right? And sportsmanship, and that you can work together. And it's not always us against them and we're going to beat them. That it helps raise amazing humans. And, as much work as that one wasn't my favorite event, but it was very rewarding because of how the studios worked together and made it happen. And so when you can do stuff like that too, which in the dance world, we know that doesn't happen all the time. And,
No.
Yeah, it's which is sad, it really is sad, but we can change this.
Absolutely we can. And it starts with us as the leadership.
Yes.
Right? If we're actively seeking out opportunities, the kids are watching and our staff is watching, and you never know who that might strike a chord with, right?
Okay, still talking community events and bringing your community in through your door. Let's talk about the events that you have in your studio for the community. Now, this is kind of a new concept for me. I never focused on people that didn't have kids that were going to dance and probably never would dance. Why would I? Why would I market them? But then when you kind of open your mind, and I ended up getting an event coordinator because I was at the situation in my studio where I could have that, because I didn't have the time myself to coordinate these. And this was an idea from the inner circle. But this is something that has taken off for us this year. And we've done things like a spa night where they had a health and wellness.
Yes.
And so they did like yoga, mindful, self-love, self-care, and all of that. And that was like our first one. And we had done things similar. And so it sold out quite fast. And then the community heard about it and they're like, are you going to have another one of those things? And then it brought people through my door. And I just built this amazing, beautiful studio. It's only a year old. And so people were coming into a studio that would never step foot in a dance studio before. And they're like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. And so we did, so things like that, or things like, on Valentine's Day, we're planning a parent night out. So they drop their kids off for 2 hours so that they can go for supper. Yeah. Do they have to dance here? No, I'm not going to even I'm advertising it more out in like the moms groups and the buy and sells and stuff like that as like, let us take care of your kids.
Yeah. We did something similar like that, but we did it during our 5 days of Christmas where we just have parties with the kids the last week of classes, and the parents are thrilled because we advertise it as drop your kids off for a few hours, go have a date night with your spouse, wrap the presents without worry of the kids coming through the doors. Like there's so many different things that you can do to get new people in. One thing that we did with our wellness center, this is again before COVID, but we did a 90-day couples challenge, and it could be anybody. But we had different criteria, and we had fun little prizes and games and things throughout. And it was one of the top selling events that we ever did and got in tons of new people. So, and the beautiful thing about it was we were strategic when we planned it. So typically 3 months in, you've got a habit set. So they were used to coming and taking class for 3 months. So they signed up and stayed. So it was really, really great.
That's awesome. Yeah. We just this last Christmas season, we donated some of our space. We had like a big dancers lounge. So we kind of kicked them out of there and we donated it to Big Brothers and Sisters, which is a charity organization, and they do adopt a family. So you basically get a family and you buy all of the gifts for them for Christmas and get the meal. And so we were the drop-off location for all the gifts. So there was 33 families that were sponsored. So they had all of these presents and gifts. Aww. And we just kind of did it quietly because we didn't want to let anyone know that we had thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts here. But we were the pick up and drop off. So all the people that were donating were coming here. And then all the people that were getting these gifts were coming here to pick up. And so, I mean, it made me feel good, right? Like that was like a charitable donation of that. But it also got feet through my door that would have never otherwise stepped through here. Mm-hmm. And what funny thing was, as I was sitting here working, the person didn't know that I owned it. And it was two old men. And they were talking about what the building was before this and where I came from. And their stories were so wrong. Like they said that someone else had owned my business before. Like I don't even know where they were getting. It was just two old farmers talking, getting the story all twisted. And so it was so hard for me to keep my mouth shut. But they're like, yeah, my daughter's probably going to have a little one, and I'm sure they'll probably come here. And I could just see them at the coffee shop saying, that Dancer's Edge, just because it's on their mind and it's in there. So they would have never come in here. And now they have their stories to tell of Dancer's Edge that they were, here. So
that's awesome.
I just had to laugh. I was like, oh dear. All right, carrying on. We could tell all funny stories all the time.
Oh man.
Another really important part about this is how well known are you in the community? How well known are you in your community that you're in?
Mm-hmm. And what do you want to be known for?
Yes.
Don't just jump at every opportunity. Be strategic about it. Make sure it fits with your vision of what your studio brand is.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to throw that name out too.
Yeah. One of our core values is about being ambassadors within our community and of the fine arts within our community. So I've gone into the high school on several occasions, and not as a dance teacher. Well, I have done it as a dance teacher as well, but as a business owner. And so like in the high school, one of them was doing a marketing media class. And so I went in and they picked my brain on different ad strategies and things like that. And so the teacher used me as a resource for that. Another one was for goal setting and how do we set them? How do we get to where we want to be? And I work them through how we go about doing that as a business owner. And then I did another one on entrepreneurship and setting up a business, and that one was super fun because I made them they got to pick who the owner was of the high school lawn care. And then I was like this crazy client that phoned him and started yelling at him. And he just sat there with his jaw open. And I'm like, this is a customer. Are you not going to respond? And so it's not just putting yourself in a box too on what you're used to doing, but as an entrepreneur and as a studio owner, you wear so many different hats. How could you make yourself of use to your local community? And by doing those things, I now get called on a lot to do other things. Like our theater's going through a renovation project where they're trying to build on a rehearsal space. They called on me to come and film videos and talk about why this was necessary in our community, which led to, we just had our 20-year anniversary at the theater. So because I've worked with them, they phoned me and I was the studio that represented dance at the gala for the 20th anniversary. So it's all of those little things lead up to other things.
Yeah. As a studio owner, you kind of, and it gets easier as you go on, but at the start, you have to do a lot of footwork. That was like me too. I wanted every business owner to know who I was. So I would go to chamber meetings. That's a great way to meet people. I would go to, like, if they ever had any like community training, they used to do like any free business training and stuff like that. I would show up there. Galas and stuff like that. I would buy a table for the Dancer's Edge, that sort of thing, so that everyone started to see who the person behind Dancer's Edge, right? And so, yeah, you are kind of branding your studio and being a representative of it. And then, like you said, that's where things start to trickle down. And yeah. I think another thing that we had done, it didn't start in COVID, but it really boomed in COVID. We went to businesses because I knew that other businesses were struggling. And so I took 6 dancers and they had a bunch of different outfits. And I had asked on a community group page before who would like to participate. It was free. I had a photographer who was donating her time. And I took these 6 dancers and we went to, I think we ended up going to 7 or 8 different businesses, and we did like little mini photo shoots there for them to use as advertising if they want, or for me to use as advertising. And it was such a cool experience and they loved it, and they were like, they loved the dancers being in there, and just something different, right? Like, and that to get to see all of the different businesses that are in your community.
Well, and what I loved about that, because I remember the photos, like you showing me, and like, I think it was your own daughter, wasn't she in like a chest press eating an ice cream sundae?
Yes, she was doing like a chest stand on the bar with her foot was holding the straw.
And like, but how cool is that? Because if you're an ice cream shop, or do you know what I mean? Or like a bistro or whatever, and you've got this dancer in this acrobatic pose in your place of business, enjoying like what you serve, that's going to stop people from scrolling, right? Yeah. Like it's that attention grabbing, whoa, that's different. What's going on here? It's such a great way to give opportunity to your students and clients, but also build the business locally and get your name out there as somebody who wants to help and support your community. Mm-hmm. And then they do it in turn. Like it's a beautiful give and take relationship.
Yeah. We've been really, really fortunate to be, we've won Business of the Year in both locations, and I've won Resilient Business of the Year in both of my towns too. And then now that it's been time, we were just nominated again the past year. And so I take those nominations very seriously, and I'm very proud of those. And, you know, I always want, when someone's thinking about who they should nominate as a business, I want my name in the running every year that it can be. I want people to think that we're here to be a part of the community, to serve the people, to, you know, if we're fortunate that we can give back in different ways. You know, I maybe not, some businesses, like the larger oil fields and stuff like that, can give monetary, right? I'm going to sponsor this event, $20,000. I can't do that. But I can provide you with dancers, with entertainment. I can provide my dancers to work the coat check. So there's different ways. It doesn't have to be monetary of how to support and give to charities and other organizations in your community. You can do it in the ways that we excel at. Yeah, 100%. And I love what it teaches the kids, because I find there's becoming fewer and fewer opportunities for children to pay it forward or have some sort of volunteer or active service commitment or obligation. And like, we're seeing it in volunteer organizations, right? Like, it's getting harder and harder. There's a lot more of them closing down because they cannot find the manpower to run it. And a lot of those organizations are so necessary for, you know, less privileged, like lower income. And so I love what it teaches the kids. And we do, at Christmas, we do an angel campaign. We call it our Christmas Angel campaign, where we give the kids like a small, like it's either $5 or $10. It's really not a lot. And we ask them to pay it forward in the community. Find a way to make somebody's Christmas season just sparkle a little brighter. And I have. Don't you love what comes back from that?
Oh, we cry so much. We cry so much.
And it tells so much about the little muffin's character too. Like, did they take it and buy some cat food? Or did they take it and buy some candy and give it to their friend at school the next day? Right. Which that's in the rules. They can do that.
Yeah. It's honestly my favorite thing that we do with our community, where I really am pretty hands off, other than what I give the kids and what I tell them. This past year, I had a little girl that wanted to match the money I gave. So she approached her teachers and family and other coaches to see if they would match her money, because she wanted to buy food baskets for families that didn't have Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
She raised $129, bought 2 food baskets and a couple gifts.
Wow.
This is a 7-year-old girl that talked about it. When
your studio becomes more than a dance studio. We are raising humans. Yes. We are part of that village that it takes to raise a child. We are an important part of it. And I do not take that for granted. And this is how we ensure that our students are amazing humans.
Yeah, 100%. And the parents are so proud. Like they're so proud. And like one little girl, she bought donuts and took them to the local police station, which I think is hilarious. But she was so thrilled because she got to meet the service dogs while she was there and get her picture taken with them. And so like they get back too. Like when you have that service in you and you give it out, it always comes back tenfold. Like never once have I ever got out and given something of myself and not felt that it was paid back to me tenfold.
Yep. You have to not be like, what's my return on this?
No.
You have to get that mindset out of there. Yeah.
This is, you do it because you can.
Yeah.
And it fills you up. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I think we kind of talked about who do you know in your community? We kind of did a little bit.
A little bit about that. Yeah. Like everybody knows another business owner.
Yeah.
If you don't, like the next time you're picking up your studio shirts from whatever local vendor did it, go in and say thank you to the business owner or ask to meet them and have a conversation. Or, the next time you're getting your hair cut, talk staffing with your stylist if they have any part in the management. There's opportunity everywhere to have side conversations that are going to help you grow, but also could open up opportunities if your ears are open to hearing them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I really agree with that. And I try and do that too, like making sure that I've introduced myself, which puts yourself out there sort of thing. But, do you know your mayor? If not, have you had that conversation? Or, your local MPs and that sort of thing, which is government. Sorry, if you're
members,
even, like not even that big, but just, like your businesses, like, yeah.
What is that called in the US? Governor?
Well, a member of parliament is not quite as high as a governor, I don't think. I'm not sure. This is not our realm of genius.
So not my realm of genius.
Yeah. Community, well, it's also one of my core values and it's one of yours. So this is why it's so important for us. And it doesn't have to be one of yours. And if this is not your jam and you just want to come in, that is totally okay. For me, this is really important in part of my values. And so that's why I do put, we spend time as staff talking about what we'll do, talking about how they look in the community as well. Like they're representing the dance studio and what that they can do. And and then to your parents and to your kids. And I know that my parents really appreciate the community involvement that we do have. And we get that all the time when we get to do something like that. They're always like, thank you so much for this. This was such a great opportunity for Susie. And I see her growing and
And the thing I love about that, when parents are talking like that, when you need a hand, hey, does anybody have a truck that can transport this for I know this has happened for you and it's happened for me too. It's like, they're always willing to lend a hand because you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
So if that's important when they're looking for a dance studio, it's going to be important for them to give back too. And sometimes you get to reap those rewards personally. And it's like, oh, okay, that was really awesome. Thank you.
Do you want to know a funny story? I don't know if I've told you this before, but so over a year ago, we were actually homeless for a little bit. We were a little bit in limbo where we didn't have a building. And we were kind of going through some things with the town trying to get into this building. And during that time, surrounding community that was about 20 minutes away reached out to me and offered me to come to their town. And they said, we see what you do in the community. We know your involvement. We want you. Would you think of opening up a studio in our town? And I thought, how big of a compliment is that?
No kidding.
They see what the studio adds to the community and they want that in their community. That was a moment where I was just like, damn, girl, you're doing something right.
Oh, I'm always proud of you, but I'm super proud of you
and then it also gave me a fight to no, this community, Lacombe, this is my heart. I know that my studio needs to be here for the community. And so I fought for it, and I got what I, where we wanted and everything. And everything worked out in the long run. But it was very interesting to have a different town call you, the mayor, and be like, will you think about coming to our community? And so it just says something, put it out there, do the legwork, and it pays off. It's not an instant gratification. You have to be okay with doing the work, and then, it'll come.
Well, and this type of work is volunteer work. You need to go into it with that mindset. It is not with the intention of getting anything back.
No.
When things come back, it is just a byproduct of the goodness that you put out into the world. But you can't expect, it's not the purpose of this. This is for building your community, being a part of your community, being recognized in your community, and teaching those kiddos that come through your door what it is that makes you different.
But with that said, Patti, it all by doing that brings in more students.
100%.
Which brings you more revenue. So
100%.
Yeah, it will eventually, but yeah, you can't think of it like that. That's not where you're going. Yeah, that's not your goal, is like, oh, I have to go do this parade so that I can get 5 students registered.
Yeah, that is not the point.
You will come. Yeah, you will build that, and and advertising and your branding, and yeah.
And 100% agree. I think it's really good for the community too to see the business leaders that are out there, because there's some businesses that are quite successful that you never see at any community events.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, how do you want to be known?
Yeah. And I hope that we're resonating with everyone. I mean, both Patti and I are from Lloydminster's a city, right?
We are a city. But we're smaller. Like, I think we're about 36 to 40,000.
Yeah. And I'm a city too, but by no means like a city. Like, so, I mean, if you're in a city, is that different? Is there community there? But the cities are always full of like sub communities, right? And so I wouldn't think of going and attacking all of New York. I would think about your suburb as your community.
Yeah.
And and creating that family affair there. It doesn't matter if you're in a small town or a ginormous, city center, that you need to find your own community. You build it, you find it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just getting your name out there. Getting your name out there.
See, you can't see me, but I'm smiling. This is my love language. This is
your love language.
I do love that.
You strive at this. It's amazing. I love watching your stuff that you do.
I think it just keeps me busy, right? And I have to be like, what can I do next? What can I do next? So that's 100%. Always something. Well, Patti, this was fun. I really loved this series, and I got a lot out of it. I'm sure you did as well.
I did too. Yeah.
I'm going to actually go back and listen through it again. I like to do that. I like to listen to these podcasts, whether it's us or someone else, while I'm driving. I usually have like a half-hour drive somewhere, and it's just me in my car by myself driving somewhere, and I can, listen and be inspired by different people and motivated by different people. That's why this podcast and all of the series in here are so amazing.
Well, and what I usually do mine when I'm getting ready in the morning, like when it's part of my morning routine.
Yep.
What I love about it is, it doesn't matter who it is that's speaking. There's always a message in there for me to learn.
Yeah.
There's always something that it's like, like it just makes me think about it in a different way.
Yep.
And sometimes that different way of thinking about something can totally transform your business.
Yes.
It's like, always think outside the box. Always.
It's funny. I'm like, I've like a little kid. I have like such an imagination. But when I'm listening to the podcast, like I really pretend that they're speaking to me. Like that's how I came in love so much with IC, is like Hillary Parnell was like famous for me. And I pretend that she was talking her podcast just to myself. Yeah. But and then you're like, wow, I needed to hear that. Wow, that is so me. And then it makes you feel like, okay, if she's making a podcast about this, maybe I'm not alone. Maybe I'm not the only one that's going through this. And okay, yes, let's do this. Let's figure it out. So that's kind of what's so cool about this experience. We just want to thank you all for listening to us and coming along on this through our door journey that we did the last 6 podcasts. And we hope to speak with you all again soon. And if you ever run into us, make sure you say hi.
You can hug me.
Yeah, Patty's a hugger. I don't like hugs, but I sure love to talk to you.
I hug for Heather. I'm going to get a shirt that says I hug for Heather.
Yeah, we have an inner circle retreat going up and I'm literally anxious. I've told people a couple times, you get one hug from me if we're on that level, if we're on that friend level. If not, let's just smile at each other.
And I'll hug you at the local Walmart or Target.
Yeah, there we go. See, it takes all kinds of people to make this world go round.
It really does. It really does.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for tuning in, and we hopefully will talk to you guys soon.
Take care.
We hope you loved this week's episode of CEO Coffee Chat as much as we did. See you next week, right here at the Transform My Dance Studio podcast.